Feminism is what we say it is. And we say that feminism is the problem. Putting the conversation where it needs to be, this is the Vanguard Report. Hello, today is Monday, January 19th, 2015, and this is episode number 35 of the Vanguard Report. Welcome to episode number 35. As you know, here on the Vanguard Report, we are obsessed with feminism. We think that is a damn good thing to be obsessed with. Just feminism, which, as you know, is a female supremacist anti-male hate movement. We have noticed a pattern. A lot of people don't want you to talk about feminism. They have a lot of reasons for this. The interesting thing is that these people can be found on both sides of the war. You will find both feminists and non-feminists who don't want you to talk about feminism. In the case of the feminists, that is no mystery. To them, when you attack feminism, it is a sacrilege. And if you keep it up long enough, they feel like they are being skinned alive. Any harsh talk about feminism hits them where they live in a big way. But the funny thing is that a lot of non-feminist people, I should say, for example, certain men who are, let us say, hiking on their own trail, will flat out tell you that attacking feminism is a waste of time, that you shouldn't bother with it. That's what some of these people say. Well, you know what I say? Screw that. Attacking feminism openly and by name is one of the best things we can do at the present stage of history. And here at the Vanguard Report, it's what we do. It's our gig. It's our profession, you might say. And telling us that we are too obsessed with feminism is like telling an electrician that he is too obsessed with wires. It totally misses the point. No, this is not the men's rights movement. It is the drill holes in feminism until it sinks movement. That's all we care about hereabouts. If you go after feminism, you've got men's rights covered. And besides, there are plenty of people to talk about men's rights and plenty of people to complain about women and relationships. So, we figure it's good to do something different. So, very well. I am your host, Fiedelbogen, for this episode number 35 of the Vanguard Report, and my fellow host is Nick Redding, true son of the Alberta Prairie, as always. Here he is. Nick, say hello.
Hey everybody, it's Nick Redding from Men's Rights Edmonton. Last week we released the video form of the feminist, non-feminist cooperation spiral. There's an infographic version that's been completed that will be put out soon on the website. It's already being circulated.
Yes, well, I saw that infographic. Believe me, it's killer. And I mean that in a good way. It's good. It's going to be a game changer. Anyway, let's move right on into the heart of the program. Got a couple of articles I want to share with you from off of the internet. This would be Q number 1 and Q number 2. Two different links showing up in the chat window now. I set these two articles side by side because I want to compare and contrast them. There is a certain relationship, a certain linkage that I wish to demonstrate. The first one Comes from the WashingtonExaminer.com. It's an article, and give me half a minute to pull it up in my browser. And here we go. No, we did not just learn that 1 in 3 college men would rape if they could get away with it. Well, to give you the executive summary here, some person, some feminist, did a survey at some college, I believe it was in North Dakota or South Dakota, on a small number of male students and asked them certain questions that were, rigged in a certain way, and came away with the conclusion that some unseemly number of young men want to commit rape or would commit rape if they thought they could get away with it. And anyway, the article. Certain feminists were almost gleeful Monday when they discovered a study that seemed to confirm their worldview that a large chunk of the male population just want to rape. The biggest problem with that study is that the researchers surveyed just 86 men who received extra credit for their participation at a single university in North Dakota. And the answers of just 73 men were used for analysis because the researchers discounted missing data and one man whose answers confused them. This study of a tiny sample, the University of North Dakota, where the study was conducted, has a student population of over 15,000, found that 1/3 of analyzed participants, 23 guys, had, quote, intentions to force a woman to sexual intercourse. 13% of the survey participants, 9 guys, actually said flat out that they would rape a woman. People who have been pushing for universities to play court and condemn men based solely on accusations may read that number and believe 13% of men want to rape. Even in a world where college men take everything seriously, do they? Even in a world where college men take everything seriously, 9 guys does not equal a mass epidemic of would-be rapists. A more sound reading is that 9 college boys didn't take the survey too seriously. The study is further tainted because it begins with a false premise, the oft-repeated but thoroughly debunked statistic that 1 in 5 women will be raped during their college years. Researchers also debriefed participants after the study by addressing rape myths. Given the researchers' propensity to believe the 1 in 5 myth, it's anyone's guess what sort of rape myths they were addressing and whether they were myths or just facts. The study's lead researcher, Sarah Edwards, an assistant professor of counseling psychology, told Newsweek that her study shows men would rape if it's not called rape. The number one point is there are people that will say they would force a woman to have sex but would deny they would rape a woman, Edwards said. This led to pearl-clutching headlines such as Jezebel's 1 in 3 college men admitted they would rape if we don't call it rape, and Cosmopolitan's study 1 in 3 men would rape, 1 in 3 men would rape, not college men, 1 in 3 men would rape if they wouldn't get caught or face consequences. Cosmo brings up an interesting point, surely unintentionally raising a question that is more ancient than universities themselves and appears in Plato's Republic. How many people would break any law if they knew they could get away with it? How many seemingly just people could you get to say they would steal or even murder if there was no chance of being caught, if they were given a ring that made them invisible? Which brings up another problem with the study. Saying you would do something bad if there are no consequences is not the same as doing those bad things. How many people say they'd love to tell their boss off but never do? Well, I'd like to interject something right here. Saying that you would do something doesn't mean that you would actually do it, even if given the chance. Okay, I think it's important to keep that in mind. This is another case study in eye-catching, outrage-inducing headlines with no substance to back them up. The studies note that this was only a first exploration of the topic, and that future studies could further prove or disprove the findings indicates a possible desire for grant funding. Edwards did not respond to a Washington Examiner inquiry prior to press time. Oh boy. Okay, fair enough. So they did a study, and they want us to believe that something like, 13% of men would rape if given the chance. But now that they announced this information to make men look bad, let's go somewhere else and look at something else. This is link number 2, the one we gave you a minute ago. This is from CanadianCRC.com. It is a reprint from The Scotsman, Scotland's national newspaper. Headline says, 96% of women are liars. Honest. And this is a somewhat more lengthy article here. It is from December 9th, 2004. That's okay. It's not exactly current, but it doesn't need to be current to be relevant. 19 out of 20 women admit lying to their partners or husbands, a survey on attitudes to truth and relationships has found. 83% owned up to telling big, life-changing lies, with 13% saying they did so frequently. Half said that if they became pregnant by another man but wanted to stay with their partner, they would lie about the baby's real father. 42% would lie about contraception in order to get pregnant, no matter the wishes of their partner. And an alarming 31% said they would not tell a future partner if they had a sexual disease. This rises to 65% among single women. In the poll of 5,000 women for That's Life magazine, 45% said they told little white lies most days. Joe Checkley, the editor of That's Life, said that while many women now lie to avoid hurting their partner's feelings, covering up the truth about a baby could have far more damaging consequences. She said, modern women just can't stop lying, but they do it to stop hurting other people's feelings. It could be argued that these little white lies simply make the world go round a little more smoothly. But to tell a man a baby is his when it's not, or to deliberately get pregnant when your partner doesn't want a baby, is playing Russian roulette with other people's lives. The National Scruples and Lies Survey 2004 found plenty of untruths were told over the Christmas period. A total of 78% said they would pass off a second-hand gift as a brand new present, while half have lied about a Christmas card being lost in the post. Well, that's pretty tame stuff right there. Women will also lie to save people's feelings. Okay. Just over half would flatter a man if he asked them about his looks. Elsewhere, 54% admitted to stealing sweets or chocolates. 23% would sneak a bottle or two home if they were invited to a party by a well-off friend. 49% would kiss and tell to the media for $25,000 if they had a one-night stand with a celebrity. And 38% say they would marry purely for money. 19% of women with a long-term partner said they had cheated on him, while 30% of all women have had an affair with a married man. 68% said they did not trust their partner. And the article goes on, but not too much longer. Well, so first we had an article telling something very bad about men, or at least purporting to tell something very bad about men. And then we had another article purporting to tell some very bad things about women. I would say that kind of balances the picture. I mean, if you're going to say bad things about men and do surveys and studies to come up with bad things about men, that's only, symmetrical to do the same thing on the female side. So we had one study there to prove what a bunch of dirtbags men are, that they would rape if they could get away with it. And now we have another study here telling them that half of all women would commit fraternity fraud and all kinds of bad things here. So I don't know, who is worse, men or women? Nick, you got any ideas about that?
Well, first of all, the survey involving the guys there, when she said that it's probably about that 9 of them didn't take the survey very seriously. I think that's what they're really going after. They're trying to frame. They're trying to take some guys. Because who's going to sit down to a rape survey and say, yeah, I would rape? Like, even if they thought it was anonymous, who's going to do that? Or even if they were told it was anonymous, who's going to sit down and go, yeah, totally, I would totally rape someone? Not even a rapist would do that. So obviously you've got 9 guys who are just messing around. And this is the same thing with that yes means no, or no means yes, and yes means anal. Obviously they don't believe that. Obviously those aren't cultural norms. They're just joking around, and it's that kind of humor that they're coming down on. As far as all those women who would do those things, I would have to look into that study. Again, I don't think that nearly 50% of women would sit down and just tell someone, yeah, I would totally lie about paternity fraud, or I haven't been given enough details, but I don't think that sounds like a very reliable number either.
I know. Doesn't sound very reliable, and I don't mean to imply that anything on this in the second article is true. I'd have to look into it further, so don't tar me as a misogynist here, because I'm not saying I believe anything in this. I'm just saying it was printed in the news and published on a website. And I have to say that what is published in the second article looks like it might, if anything, be a little bit better based than what was published in the first article. Again, not saying that I believe it is true, but this does sort of help to put things in perspective. I mean, if you're going to believe what's in the first article, then why not believe all the bad stuff about women in the second article? You know? I mean, we can dig up dirt about men or women, and what's the point? Well, we know why they try to dig up dirt about men. It's because they want to make the world a more hostile place for men. They want to have a pretext to pass more anti-male laws, to conduct more public morality campaigns directed against men but not against women.
Well, you know what? I don't mind. The problem in that, I don't mind people talking cynically or even negatively about men. I talk pretty negatively about men myself. It's that they will not permit the slightest amount of negative talk about women. Yes. That's the problem.
It's the double standard. Exactly, the double standard. But then that's feminism for you in a nutshell. Go after men. Men are the problem. Women are never the problem. Women are not held morally accountable. And if they are, and if you do it, off with your head. Anyway, here is another article. This would be, what is this? Q number 3. Q number 3. This is the University of Virginia fiasco that we've all heard about. University of Virginia. Phi Psi members speak about impact of discredited gang rape allegations. Here we go. Feminists and their obsession with rape. They lost this one. Why can't they just let it go? Why can't they just let it drop? Charlottesville. The Phi Kappa Psi brothers sat together in a bedroom, turning the glossy magazine pages as they absorbed the account of a gang rape that allegedly took place within the brick walls around them. The University of Virginia students read the Rolling Stone article that November night in complete surprise. A University of Virginia's junior said she attended a date party at the fraternity house in 2012 and was lured to a bedroom where a group of men raped her in what appears to be a gruesome initiation rite. The students were disgusted, emotional, and confused. Some people actually had to leave the room while they were reading it because they were so upset, said Phi Psi President Stephen Scipione, 21, a junior from Richmond. But within 24 hours of the article's publication, the University of Virginia students reviewed the fraternity's records and confirmed their initial suspicions. The magazine's account was deeply flawed. We knew that the Rolling Stone story was not true, said David Fontenot, 22, a senior from McLean, Virginia. But they also knew that we would only make things more difficult by fighting it in the media, and that our best move was to stay quiet, let the police do their jobs, and ride it out until the time was appropriate. Phi Psi members, speaking publicly for the first time since the allegations surfaced, told the Washington Post that they went into hiding for weeks after their home was vandalized with spray-painted messages calling them rapists and with bricks thrown through windows. Does this make anybody think of the Duke Lacrosse case? I don't think they threw bricks through windows, but they were banging on pots and pans, and they were just about ready to tar and feather those guys. And apparently we as a society have not learned the lesson from Duke Lacrosse. We have not assimilated that into our collective consciousness.
No, and no one incident like this, no matter how egregious, will, because they will always throw it down the memory hole.
They will.
They do. And
the memory hole, the feminist memory hole to be more precise. Nick, what was that again? The feminist memory hole?
Well, if anyone's ever read 1984, the memory hole in that book was a metaphor, but in the book it was a hole that led down to an incinerator that any and all inconvenient information was placed.
To be forgotten forever.
Yeah, as soon as you saw it.
To be snuffed out like it never was. And we who have dealt with feminists quite a bit down the years, we know how they operate. They use this memory hole trick all the time. Sometimes even in the course of a single conversation. They will forget or conveniently change what you said or what they said 5 minutes earlier in the conversation, like it was never said.
They do it right in front of you over and over and over again, obviously. Like, right. So obviously that you have to be submissive to them for this to work.
Right in front of your face they do this. Shamelessly they do this, okay? We do not exaggerate. This is how feminists are. This is what feminism is. It's all about lying, making things up, and then forgetting things just as fast as you make them up so you can make up something new. It's about being very, very, very creative with the truth. And boy, are they ever creative with the truth. Ooh, they watched as their brotherhood was vilified, coming to symbolize the worst episode of collegiate sexual violence against women since the 2006, here we go, the 2006 Duke University lacrosse team scandal, which also turned out to be false. Boy, there sure are a lot of these cases of rape that turn out to not be rape after all. They never happen. There seems to be a pattern here. I think this is a problem that we have to look at. I think that false accusation and false allegation of rape happens a lot. It really does. And I think it's a problem we need to address because it's not going to go away. In fact, if the feminists have anything to say about it, it's just going to get worse. They're going to create more opportunities for certain women, not all women, but certain women, to do this sort of thing. Where license is given, license will be taken. And the easier you make it to do any bad thing, the more people are going to step forward and do that bad thing. And falsely accusing of rape, well, feminists want to make that as easy as possible for women to do to men. Not men to women, but women to men. And as it gets easier, mark my words, you're going to see more and more women making false allegations or false accusations. You can set your watch by it, folks. That leads back to the bigger problem that our society tends to rush to judge without the facts. Yeah, Scipione said. They just see the headline and get upset, and they want to blame it on someone, and obviously we were the easiest targets for that. Scipione said members of Phi Psi learned about the general allegations in mid-September when an executive from the fraternity's national office called an emergency meeting. At the fraternity house, a Phi Psi official outlined what a university official had relayed about the alleged sexual assault. He basically asked if, one, we knew about the allegations, and two, if we had committed it, said Scipione. The look around the table was complete shock and awe. Before the story was published, Scipione said he received an email from Sabrina Rubin Erdely, this Rolling Stone reporter who asked 3 questions about the rape allegations but offered no specific details, such as the date of the alleged attack. Scipione said only a small part of his response was included in the article. And this article goes on, but I think we are just about on the halfway mark for this episode, so let's go to the music break. James, let it roll. End of music break. We're back. This is part 2 of episode number 35 of the Vanguard Report. I am your host, Fiedelbogen, and I'm here with my fellow host, Nick Redding, true son of the Alberta Prairie. So, James, cue number 4 from the National Post of Canada. Never reported, Torontonian uses big data and privacy expertise to create, get ready, to create anonymous index of sexual assault. I'll give you the executive summary here before I jump into the article. This woman in Toronto by the name of Lauren Reed claims to have been raped 3 times. She is an IT professional of some sort, and she wants to create a database where women can come and enter their personal experiences of rape or sexual assault, broken down into categories and details, anonymously. And this is to, I guess, kind of build up some sort of a picture of, well, the cases that don't get reported, because, 90% of rape cases don't get reported, is that right, or 80%? Anyway, it's a lot, and this woman, Lauren Reed, wants to build this database. Lauren Reed has a unique contribution to the ongoing conversation about unreported rapes and the climate for addressing sexual assault claims. Raped 3 times, this is what she says, raped 3 times, once in high school and twice in university. Her jaw-dropping experience had never been documented in any official record or police report. In other words, we have no evidence. Now, the 30-year-old Toronto resident is using her professional background in big data and privacy to push for a national, anonymous, user-controlled, and self-reported database on sexual assault. It is an ambitious project, unprecedented in its scope, but it comes with its own set of complicated challenges and concerns. Right now, the best self-reported data on sexual assault comes from the Statistics Canada's General Social Survey on Victimization, in which a random sample of Canadians are asked out of the blue and by phone if they have ever been sexually assaulted. The most recent survey shows 6% of Canadian women self-reported a sexual assault, a number that activists believe is underrepresentative. An oft-cited statistic that 1 in 4 Canadian women have been sexually assaulted is routinely picked apart. That's interesting why they would routinely pick that apart. So, 6% of Canadian women self-report a sexual assault on the StatsCan social survey. And, well, a sexual assault. 6% doesn't say what sexual assault is. It might be rape, it might not be rape. But anyway, apparently somebody thinks that they are hesitant to talk about this over the phone. So, the article, by the way, contains 3 separate embedded videos in which the author, or not the author, but Lauren Reed, the woman who's trying to put this project together, talks about the 3 separate rape incidents that she claims to have experienced. And you go there and you can listen to it and kind of get a feel for it. It took me 15 years to tell my story, so if you are sitting at home watching TV with your family and someone calls you and says, "So, have you been raped?" who knows what you're going to be ready to say at that time? Okay, says Ms. Reed, who hopes to launch the database as part of her existing project, whenyou'reready.org, a place where survivors can share their stories in a supportive environment. So she's got a website already where people come in and share their stories about having been raped. And this new thing with the database is her latest idea to sort of extend that to the next level. The goal with When You're Ready is to create a database that allows us insights into why didn't you report it, among other things, she said. The intention of this new database being proposed by Ms. Reed is to also try to gauge how many people are sexually assaulted more than once, if people didn't know it was rape at the time, if they were drinking or drugged, and so on. Users would enter their stories and add or change information anytime. They would enter their stories, they would add or change information anytime. I guess anybody could just log into that system and tell a story about rape and then come back and edit that story later. Okay? The database would need to maintain clear definitions of sexual assault, she said. Now, that's very good. And it would be fully anonymous. No naming of names allowed. So I guess you couldn't name your own name, and you couldn't name the person, the name of the person who had supposedly raped you. Above all, the data would be in the user's control and de-identified. Okay, anonymous, I guess that means. Likely using the Privacy by Design framework developed by former Ontario Privacy Commissioner and world-renowned privacy expert Dr. Anne Cavoukian, who said she applauds Ms. Reed's vision. Even those who support the intention of such a database worry about privacy concerns, legal implications, and false reports. Yes, I am a bit concerned about false reports. What's to stop anybody from coming in there and making up a story about rape that might not have happened? How do you know who's submitting? How do you... listen to this. How do you know it's not a men's rights activist? Said Irene, name unpronounceable, executive director of the Women Against Violence Against Women. Whoa. Let's try that again. The Women Against Violence Against Women Rape Crisis Center in Vancouver. How do you know it's not a men's rights activist? Now, Nick, I think that might be a reference to Occidental College. You think so?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
I think these people are scared to fucking death of us. If they're trying to smear us for something like that, I mean, they must be terrified at this point.
It's not told in the article whether this Irene, name unpronounceable, is a feminist or not, but she's the executive director of Women Against Violence Against Women Rape Crisis Center. So I think it's a pretty good bet that she would identify herself as a feminist. I'm almost willing to lay half my life savings on that. Okay. How do you know it's not a men's rights activist? Anyway, I lost my train of thought. Damn. She is skeptical that privacy protections will be sufficient in an era of surveillance and hacking, and she feels that the numbers collected by Statistics Canada and rape crisis centers such as her own, which are shared with government, are enough. Okay, so anyway, Irene, name unpronounceable, has some fear that non-feminists will come in there and do something weird with her database. And what she thinks they're going to do, I'm not exactly sure. I don't see why why non-feminist people would have any motivation to put in a false story about rape.
I'll tell you what she's afraid of.
Yes, please.
She is afraid that if men begin to use it, that it will begin to ruin their narrative on rape.
Oh, that certainly is a possibility.
And here I was just worried that here I thought that she was only worried that if non-feminists were using it, then they would lie, whereas all the feminists using it would not.
Would not lie, yes. Well, a feminist would have a motivation to lie, because we know that feminists want to make rape look as bad as they can possibly make it look. They want to just inflate that boogeyman to colossal dimensions. And it's just as simple as going in there and making up false stories about rape and even creating multiple accounts with the system. And a bunch of people can get together, cooperate on that. There's no reason why it can't be a team effort. And with a little bit of work, a lot of very determined feminists, you could make it look like there's an awful lot of rape going on out there in the world. This could certainly happen. And I can't see anything in this system that would prevent such a thing from happening. And folks, if you think I'm being unnecessarily harsh on feminists, I am not. Having observed feminists and dealt with them for so many years, I know exactly how they are and how they operate, and they routinely lie and commit fraud of this nature.
The best thing we could do is allow them to shoot themselves in the foot with this.
How do you propose they will do that, James?
I propose that they will do that by having different groups that are communicative with each other enough that they're probably going to end up putting more rapes in the database than there are women in Canada.
And Canada has about 30 million. Well, they still got to be pretty busy there to push it above, say, 15 million.
Oh, I'm just saying. These people will inflate their statistics to such a ridiculous measure that anybody with any kind of sense whatsoever is going to look at that and go, bullshit.
Yeah, it's all bullshit. There is no rape culture, by the way, and this is me talking here. There are rape microcultures, perhaps, arguably, scattered and dotted around the social landscape. But as far as a big overarching rape culture that we all live in, no, there's no such thing. You have to look at the whole world and see that there's just as good of a case to be made that there is an anti-rape culture as there is a rape culture. Now, see, you're going to say we live in a rape culture, or are you going to say we live in an anti-rape culture? Okay. Oh, and by the way, yes, there are scummy men out there who would think nothing about committing rape. I have occasionally in my life encountered such men. I've come upon them in one context or another. They are a small portion of the population, and they tend to pool and to collect in various corners of society. So when you come upon them, you'll tend to come upon them in numbers. There'll be a group of them somewhere. And between those groups, there will be vast stretches where they're nowhere to be found. Anyway, she is skeptical privacy protections will be sufficient in an era of surveillance and hacking, and she feels that numbers collected by StatsCan and rape crisis centers such as her own, which are shared with government, are enough. Okay, I just read that. If this web-based platform seeks to influence the public that sexual assault is indeed an issue because of the numbers, then why is it not enough to know that currently there are approximately 472,000 self-reported sexual assaults in Canada every year? I'd like to know where that number comes from.
See, this blows my mind. This is like one time I saw a clip of two imams on some television network arguing over whether women should be allowed to drive or not, or where you should be allowed to hit your wife. You've got, on one hand, you've got one woman who thinks that the StatsCan system is enough, and one woman who thinks that the StatsCan isn't enough. But the way the StatsCan does it is they randomly call people up, they ask them if they were raped, and if they say yes, then they go, oh, all right, we got another person who was raped. No looking into it. No verifying the facts. Police have to do that. That's why we can't trust what the police have to say, because they're hampered by all that fucking due process stuff.
Oh, yes, that due process. Damn that due process.
So they're, obviously people are too afraid to come to them because their stories will be scrutinized, and that's scary for people who are telling the truth. This StatsCan thing, this is totally reliable because they don't give a rat's ass who's telling the truth or not.
Mm-hmm.
Because they automatically assume that 100% of them are correct.
Okay. They don't go looking for evidence, do they?
No. Well, the accusation is the evidence. The claim is the evidence.
Okay.
Yes.
Accusation is evidence. That's how they want to play it. Holly Johnson, a criminologist with the University of Ottawa, who studies violence against women, says the database could be one source among others. I'm starting to wonder why they even need this database and what this database is going to add to resources that are already existing. But anyway.
It could be a way of legitimizing all sorts of myths and all sorts of information so that when people are informing police and other law enforcement and anybody else who has to deal with this stuff, they're going to be pointing to their sources. And this is their sources. These are their very trusted sources. These completely, just like StatsCan, these completely unchecked, unverified claims. Well, this many people said this, therefore
X is true.
Yeah.
I got you. Well, let's go to cue number 5. This is the website whenyouareready.org. This is the website of Lauren Reed, the website she's already got, current project, of which the database will be an extension, as I gather. This is a blog, and the entry on this blog is interesting. The title of the entry is Trolls. Today was a huge day for the When You're Ready project. It's been just over a month since I launched the project, and today 2 feature-length articles were posted in major Canadian news outlets. One from the National Post, one from Maclean's. I also launched the new logo and banner, etc., etc. Then she's going to talk about the trolls. Trolls, for those unfamiliar, I'm not referring to the mythical grotesque creatures that dwell in caves and turn to stone when the light hits them. Nor do I mean the adorable 80s collector's items. I'm referring to real-life grotesque creatures that dwell in caves, their mother's basements, and lurk on internet message boards with the intent of provoking reactions and starting arguments. This whole concept of trolling is new to me. Must not have been on the internet for long. I've only been on Twitter for a few weeks, and I didn't grow up using message boards and chat rooms. Within minutes of being published, the National Post story had over 20 comments. I know, don't read the comments, but I had to. I've never been the subject of a news story before, and I was excited to see what people would think of the project. For hours, listen to this, not a single positive comment came in. Lots of misogyny, hate, victim blaming, and cruelty. All the things that led me to launch this project in the first place. For hours, I kept hitting refresh, waiting for someone to say, "Thank you for doing this," or "I support you." I couldn't sleep. I kept checking, but to no avail. The nasty comments kept piling up. By early this morning, a few reasonable people responded, and some of those offered support. By lunchtime, the National Post editor decided to shut down the comments because they were so overwhelmingly negative. I didn't ask her to do it, but admit I was relieved when she decided to. I'm sharing some of the highlights below. I know I shouldn't read them. I know these people are just idiots. I know these comments don't matter. I know. But it's not that simple. Okay, look at this. She has an article posted in a national publication announcing her proposed database project here, and she gets an overwhelming flood of negative and critical responses from people. My God, what's happening here? Nick, you got any idea?
Well, first of all, they're all the same person. We know that if a whole bunch of people speak up against something, they're all sock puppets.
Oh, okay.
I bet they're all white and straight too.
Yes, yes.
No, it's she sees critical information, critical analysis. Which is stage 2 of the feminist non-feminist cooperation spiral, which pushes her to. Oh wait, no, I'm skipping a step there. But she's gone right from stage 2 to stage 4, which is feminism versus reality, and that results in coming back to stage 1, feminist lie. She sees all this stuff, and automatically she's telling everybody what they're really saying. What they really are. They're just trolls. Now, again, it's a lie because trolls on the internet are just there to start shit.
Well,
right?
the meaning of troll is pretty flexible, I find. I'm not sure what a troll is anymore, to be honest.
It's someone who makes someone angry just for the lulz.
Okay, so if you're not making them angry for the lulz, then you're not a troll, right? And she goes on and she lists a whole lot of the angry, negative responses she got on her article. Looks like about 20 of them here. And the time is getting short. I don't have time to read them, unfortunately. But what struck me about all of these is that they seem, for the most part, like very well-formed comments. People seem to be reasonably intelligent, albeit angry. Angry, but well-thought-out comments. And according to her, very little else. She got angry, negative comments and very little else. So, I take this as a sign of the times. There's people out there who see something wrong with what she's doing, and they're not shy in speaking up about it. So, I wish we had more time, the brick wall of death just comes at you like a speeding locomotive sometimes. So, Nick, anything you want to say before we wrap it up?
No, I just want to plug my website again, menguardsedmonton.com. Stay tuned to that and my YouTube channel. I'm going to be coming out with some good stuff soon.
Okay, and I wish we had the link to the cooperation spiral 3-sphere model diagram. We don't, but don't worry, we'll get it to you. And on that note, everybody, if you want to get a hold of us at the Vanguard Report, our email address is vanguardreport@usa.com. And I think this wraps it up for another episode number 35. Boy, that melted like Frosty the Snowman under a blowtorch, didn't it? How time flies. So, folks, it's been great. Next week will be episode number 36. And we say to you now, as we always say, feminism is what we say it is. And I'll see you next week, everybody. Ciao.